Superhero games were around for a long time before the PS2, but it felt like Sony's second console was when developers really started to be able to make superpowered worlds that people would remember for all time. Even pizza time. I'm Jimmy for Culture Vultures, and if you're sick of getting your head kicked in by Uncle Ben in Marvel Rivals or whatever, these are the best PS2 superhero games of all time. My superpower is to be trapped in a box of my own making. Watch. Oh! Number 10. X-Men 2 Wolverine's Revenge. You'd be mistaken for thinking this is a tie-in to the banger movie, as Hugh Jackman had about as much to do with this game as we had to do with Nintendo making a new F-Zero game. Perhaps most bafflingly though, Mark Hamill, he of joking and very brief Yakuza-ing fame, but don't try and tell him that, is the one who provides the voice of Wolverine. Patrick Stewart still voices Professor X though. Weirdly, while critics weren't all that kind to Wolverine's Revenge on release, there's still a fun stealth action game to be found here. Wolvie only has 48 hours to live, and he's going to need to return to the Weapon X facility to hopefully find some kind of cure. While Wolverine can walk in all claws blazing, the player has the opportunity to use the character's heightened senses and keen hunter instincts to play stealthily instead. If you look at it in a certain way, you could say this isn't even a precursor to the Batman Arkham formula. I mean, if you're looking at it in a ray-traced reflection in a puddle made of tar on a GTX 1060, but still, X-Men 2 Wolverine's Revenge might not be the best game ever, but it lets you establish an economy with a Wendigo in which soldier meat is currency, so it's pretty neat nonsense that's almost as good as the way Gal Gadot goes.
Kal-El, no!
Kal-El, yes, you are up next. Number 9, Justice League Heroes. While the PS2 isn't known as the console where DC games finally came good, that doesn't mean you should discount titles like Justice League Heroes, which launched on the PS2 at the tail end of the console's lifespan. Don't get us wrong, JLH isn't exactly the most polished game, and Marvel's offerings on the PS2 are generally just that little bit better, but if you're looking for a game that celebrates the breadth of the DC universe, including many of the characters and locations that don't often get the spotlight, this is still worth checking out. As the name implies, Justice League Heroes allows players to play as Earth's mightiest heroes in teams of 2 per level, as the team tries to defeat an invasion by the villain Brainiac, along with the usual cavalcade of less important villains that need to be battered for certain levels. JLH plays out like a cross between an action RPG and a beat-em-up, as players deal with waves of goons across multiple levels. Along the way, you'll level up and unlock new abilities, a formula as old as time itself. The superhero action RPG genre was fairly stacked on the PS2, and with Justice League Heroes' late release, it's been overlooked as years have gone by, so consider this your sign to check it out, even if you have to get a little bit kitty pride on Earth 5311, if you catch my drift, matey. Hey, speaking of, number 8, X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse.
Yes.
2 X-Men games, Jimmy? On one list? That's insane. Look, I don't know what to tell you here. In a pre-MCU world, X-Men was Marvel's hottest property just behind Spider-Man, meaning it felt like there was another X-Men game at least every 6 months. Chuck a playing card powered entirely by silly accents in the air at the pre-owned section in a game station, and the odds back in the day were pretty good that it'd land on a new X-Men game. Despite the deluge of X-Men games though, a good amount of them were a lot of fun, chief among them being the X-Men Legends games. Often considered an unofficial prequel to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, X-Men Legends gave fans exactly what they wanted to see from their favourite cabal of mutants: team-ups. A top-down action RPG, X-Men Legends allows players to form teams of 4 to try and take down various villains and other ne'er-do-wells, levelling up and unlocking new powers along the way. While the first game only allowed the good guys to be playable, X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse saw both the X-Men and Magneto's Brotherhood of Mutants teaming up temporarily as they try to deal with Apocalypse's schemes. While the formula is a bit samey across the game's 5 acts, X-Men Legends 2 would ultimately lead to an even better comic book game series that deserves another installment. We'll get to it in a bit, but for now, what was the name of the X-Men fighting game on PS2? Let us know your answer down below and you could win a free Steam key. for free. Number 7, Lego Batman. Back in 2008, the developers at Traveller's Tales had perfected the couch co-op experience with their LEGO Star Wars games, and they wanted to apply that to the world of Batman. The partnership has been incredibly successful, as we've seen 2 additional LEGO Batman games and a villain-focused spin-off appropriately titled LEGO DC Supervillains, but it all started with LEGO Batman. The first LEGO game to be based on an original story instead of retelling the events of a specific movie, LEGO Batman follows Batman, if you can believe it, Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing as they try to round up a bunch of villains that have escaped from Arkham Asylum. Of course, they accomplish this in traditional LEGO game fashion, which means smashing every piece of furniture in the area in order to gain more studs and unlock all the bonus characters and goodies. In a pretty neat twist that I don't think you'd see today, LEGO Batman even included an alternative villain-focused campaign, where you control various villains as they try to enact their plans after escaping from Arkham. It's simplistic and definitely aimed more at the kids than adults, but LEGO games have always displayed a genuine admiration for their source material, and also, I can play whatever I like. I'm a fully grown man, and I definitely pay for my TV license. Yes sir, yes. Number 6, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. A kitchen sink successor, Ultimate Alliance followed pretty much the same formula as the X-Men Legends games, only this time it focused on the entire Marvel universe instead of just Professor Xavier's collection of super kids. They're not like his Pokemon, he doesn't put them in boxes, he swears. With 23 of the most popular and recognisable characters from across Marvel Comics joining together to stop the evil schemes of Doctor Doom, you'll travel across Earth, Asgard, and other corners of Marvel to try and save the universe. As you'd expect, characters level up as you play, unlocking new abilities to make them more effective at defeating the forces of evil. What helps separate Marvel Ultimate Alliance from the prior X-Men Legends games is that when forming teams of 4, players would earn bonuses if they formed actual comic book accurate teams. Stick together heroes that are part of the Avengers, Defenders, X-Men, Fantastic Four, or the Marvel Knights, and your team will be that little bit stronger. Throw in a few additional outfits for each character that pull from their comic book history, and you've got an action RPG experience that might be the ultimate treat for any Marvel and Diablo lover. Number 5, Ultimate Spider-Man. The jovial district webchucker might be experiencing his gaming peak with the Insomniac series, but for a long time, Spider-Man PS2's offerings were unbeatable. It's not pizza time just yet, so for now, let's talk about Ultimate Spider-Man. In the middle of Activision and Treyarch creating Spider-Man tie-ins for the Sam Raimi series of movies, the teams managed to release a standalone Spider-Man game of their own. Well, kind of. It was a tie-in to the Ultimate series of comics, but it was still a bit more of an original take than the movie tie-ins. Set in the Ultimate Dimension, complete with the edgy cel-shaded art style, Ultimate Spider-Man follows the schism between Peter Parker and Eddie Brock, who's bonded with the Venom symbiote. Following on from the Venom arc in the comics, both Spider-Man and Venom end up in the sight of one Bolivar Trask, with players able to control the 2 characters at various points in the story. The gameplay offers the same open-world exploration that Spider-Man 2 pioneered, though the combat, boss fights, and web-swinging just aren't quite as smooth or enjoyable as the brilliant Spider-Man 2. Even so, if you want an alternative take on an old-school Spider-Man tale, Ultimate Spider-Man is still a genuinely fun game to play today. Now here's another game that you can actually only officially play today if you have a physical copy. Boo. Number 4, The Punisher.
Shit, think of it.
While the Punisher is a comic book character, and the Punisher game for the PS2 does feature some superheroes in the form of Daredevil, Black Widow, Iron Man, and Nick Fury, good old Frankie Castle himself isn't a superhero in the slightest. The game reflects that heavily, as the Punisher uses his arsenal of guns and knives to reduce the local criminal population by a few thousand, instead of just roughing up the goons a little and sending them off to jail. Some of you might not agree with its inclusion on this list, but consider this. Maybe if Batman waterboarded Joker with nails sometimes, he wouldn't be such a pain in the arse. As the scourge of New York's criminal underworld, the Punisher pits Castle against the Ganucci crime family, the Russian mob, and the Yakuza. No, not that Yakuza. Anyway, Castle's crusade against the unjust takes him across
New York City.
shooting up zoos, funeral homes, bars, drug dens, and even Stark Tower at one point. While the gameplay is very solid and very fun, with punchy weapons and the always hilarious ragdoll physics that are so ridiculous that you just throw dudes like an Olympic athlete, it's the interrogations and executions that make The Punisher a truly memorable game. While we can't really show you any of them for fear of losing all of the ad revenue, it's one of the best examples of gameplay remaining true to a comic book character that we've ever seen. Sure, that's easy to do when the Punisher's main character trait is kill, but you get what we're talking about. Right then, seatbelts on, we're gonna go for a ride. Number 3, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. One of the most beloved fighting games ever made, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 felt like a natural culmination of the growing relationship between both companies stemming back to the 1990s. Capcom and Marvel eventually started to properly cross over, leading to the MVC series, which inspired an entire generation to get into fighting games, so we'd be remiss to not mention the most beloved MVC game in a best of superhero games list. You've got Iron Man, Venom, and Magneto fighting Ryu, Jill Valentine, and basically Cactus Thanos. What's not to love? The 3v3 fighting game to end them all, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 can only be described as blistering, with characters and moves flying in from all directions as players execute incredible combos and techniques. Don't get us wrong, this is not the easiest fighting game in the world to play these days, especially while Justin Wong still draws breath, but those willing to put the time in to learn characters and synergies will find a deep and rewarding game fueled by player expression. If you want to see beloved superheroes showcasing their abilities while listening to one of the best soundtracks in gaming, MVC2 is an all-time great. It is as incredible now as it always was. Number 2, The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Requesting orders, over. Evasive maneuver. I'm seeing serious. We have tango.
While sadly long gone, Radical Entertainment were critical in the development of the open-world superhero genre thanks to their work on The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Yes, Radical might have fumbled with their previous Hulk PS2 game, which was a tie-in to the Ang Lee directed film that decided the world needed some Bruce Banner stealth sections for some reason, but The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction focused purely on the best parts about being the Hulk. Do we need to spell it out here? The clue is literally in the name of the game. No, down a bit. There you go. The game opens with Bruce Banner having a big old incredible sulk about the fact he keeps turning into a giant green rage monster, which is only compounded by the arrival of General Ross and Emil Blonsky. One accidental gamma exposure later, and now Banner has to deal with both Hulkbuster mech suits and the emergence of Abomination. While the game itself is fairly simplistic, amounting to go there smash that for the majority of the runtime like you're a writer on Geordie Shore, Hulk is incredibly fun to control, with Radical doing an excellent job of accentuating the big lad's power and agility. Throw in a range of ridiculous challenge missions, including how far can you punt a soldier off a skyscraper or golf but Hulk-sized, and The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction remains one of the best superhero games ever made, and crucially just a whole bunch of dumb fun. But you can't deliver a pizza in it, so the winner has to be number 1, Spider-Man 2.
Take that! Take that? You must be a college graduate.
Back during a time when most movie tie-in games were considered to be a big pile of wank, Spider-Man 2 dared to be different, offering some genuine innovation in the wide world of the webhead. Pretty much all Spider-Man games before this point were linear beat-em-ups that offered nothing in the way of dynamic web-swinging physics, so Treyarch putting their whole effort into making Spider-Man 2 the best Spider-Man game ever made was certainly noticed by gamers across the world. Compared to the previous game's web-swinging, which just allowed Parker to web-swing off of clouds, Spider-Man 2's web-swinging was completely revolutionary, helping to make Spider-Man 2 feel like more than just a cheap movie cash-in. The game itself roughly followed the plot of the movie, with Peter Parker trying and failing to find a good work/life/friendly neighborhood balance in his life, only for Doc Ock to appear and start running a mock. Doc-a-mock? Yeah, that'll do. Throw in a few side missions and additional details to pad the game out, including some brilliant yet challenging sections versus Mysterio, and it's no surprise that Spider-Man 2 has managed to be an enduring classic all these years later. The narration from the iconic Bruce Campbell is just the icing on the cake, honestly. For years, Spider-Man 2 sat at the pinnacle of not only Spider-Man games, but superhero games in general, and while Insomniac have achieved new heights, the OG Spider-Man 2, well, if you discount Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, which I will for narrative reasons, is still incredible to play. A HD port of this and Ultimate Spider-Man would be great. Cheers and thank you. Oh, I finally got out of it. Oof, that's close there. Too powerful for my own good, really. Do you know what's crazy about this video and all the games in it? Only like 2 or 3 of them I think are available on multiple platforms. But this game especially, let's wait for it to turn. We'll wait. The Punisher! That really needs to get ported, I think. If you want to see any of these games get ported, or if you have any other PS2 superhero games to recommend, drop them down below. I've been Jimmy for Cultured Vultures. It's been good to have you, and thanks for watching. Bunch.